Hello. It's a very chilly and rainy day here in London, very gloomy outside. So, definitely a day for staying inside and doing a lot of reading. And I have a big pile of new books, most of which have just been published here in the UK for the first time. Some of them publishers kindly sent me, and others I bought myself. And I am so eager to get to so many of these books. Recently, a journalist at GQ magazine interviewed me for an article about how to read more, and I definitely want to read more, even though I read quite a lot already, but just hearing about all of these books makes me so eager to get to them. So I'm going to discuss why I'm so excited about each of these books and talk about them individually, and I'd love to hear where you think I should start reading, or if you've read any of these books, or if you're interested in reading any of them now. Please let me know about that in the comments below. Also, this video is very kindly sponsored by Serious Readers, and I'll talk more about them in a few minutes' time. Now, the very first book I have is called The Cafe with No Name by Robert Seethaler. This is a story about a man in Vienna who purchases a cafe. It's kind of been his lifelong dream to purchase his own cafe, and he finally does it. He hires a barmaid to work with him, and it follows the many people who come and go throughout this cafe and his encounters with them. And Robert Seethaler has a way of encompassing a person's life in a way which is so beautiful and meaningful. I read his previous novel called A Whole Life, which I thought was so profound and just gorgeous writing and so delicately done. And so I'm so eager to get to this. I've only been to Vienna once in my life. I went there for the winter markets, and it was so beautiful. So I'd like to fictionally go back there again. Theory and Practice by Michelle de Kretser. This story is about a woman who arrives in Melbourne in the mid-1980s to study the work of Virginia Woolf, and she gets involved in the bohemian scene there and gets involved in a difficult relationship, but also makes surprising discoveries, both about her professional ambitions, but also about life in general. And if you put Virginia Woolf on the cover of a book, then I will be instantly sold. But also, the story sounds so good, and this author is so revered. She's been praised by authors like Max Porter and Neil Mukherjee and Vivi Ganeshananthan and Ali Smith and Hilary Mantel, and she's been nominated for multiple awards before, but I don't think I've read any of her previous work. It sounds so good. Next, I have a reprint of a novel which was first published in 1977, Our Sister Killjoy by Ama Ata Aidoo, and this is the story of a woman from Ghana who travels to Europe. She's always dreamed of studying and living in Europe, and she finally journeys there and travels to a number of different countries, but it records her misadventures as she has encounters with different Europeans who have a lot of misunderstanding about Africa, and so it's kind of straightening them out about that, and sounds very funny, and but also was meant to be a revelation of its time when it was first published. The Boyhood of Cain by Michael Amherst, which is a debut novel about a boy named Danny who's going to school where his father is the headmaster, and because of that he finds himself very alienated. It's very challenging for him to make friendships, but then a new boy arrives at the school who he forms a really strong connection with, and they both connect with an art teacher, and so he feels like he finally has his own social group, but then his father loses his job. They lose their their home and his life completely changes, but he desperately wants to hold on to this group of people. So it's following that journey. As I mentioned in the beginning, this video is very kindly sponsored by Serious Readers, who create excellent indoor reading lights. And I also mentioned at the start the issue about how to read more books. And I think one of the best ways to do this is to create an ideal reading spot. So this is my cozy reading spot here at home, which is very comfortable, and I have a whole selection of the books that I've been talking about. And crucial to this is having a great reading light. This is my high definition light from Serious Readers that I have been using for a very long time. It is dependable. The light from it is very clear and natural and just a joy to read under. And I know getting an excellent reading light may seem like a luxury, but it really enhances my reading experience. And I feel like I do get more reading done because of it and having this great cozy reading spot. So if you're looking for an excellent new reading light, I'd really recommend Serious Readers. And so I'll put a link in the description below so you can have a look around. And if you decide to buy one, when you are checking out, use the offer code ERIC, just ERIC, and that will give you £150 off a high definition light and give you free delivery within the UK. So I hope you find your own cozy reading spot at home. But now back to the books. Living in Your Light by Abdellah Taia. This is a quite short novel following a woman in Morocco through 3 distinct periods of her life. I'm just capturing certain moments from these different time periods, starting from the mid 1950s to the late 1990s, and how these personal moments in her life kind of intersect with the larger history that's going on around her, and capture her at points of crisis. And I think that's a really interesting way to tell a story. And also I read this author's very first novel, I think it was his first novel, called Salvation Army, which I thought was so well done. And he's produced many books since then, so I've been wanting to read more by him. Next, I have a few new books by Irish authors, and an Irish readathon just started on BookTube recently, so I think these will make some good choices. And firstly, there's Fiona Scarlett's new novel called May All Your Skies Be Blue, which is set in the summertime of 1991, following a girl who's the daughter of a woman who's just opened a hair salon, and another boy she meets, and the connection that they form with each other. But as time goes on and different social pressures are, they feel different social pressures, then their relationship is strained, and so it's sort of capturing that moment of youth and the tumult of friendships. But also I think there'll be a lot of references in this that will nostalgically recall this period of the early 1990s. And I read Fiona Scarlett's previous novel, Boys Don't Cry, which I thought was so gracefully done. She writes with such warm emotion and tenderness about her characters, and her writing is just a pleasure to read. The Language of Remembering by Patrick Holloway. This is a novel about a man from Ireland who's gone to live and work in Brazil for a long period of time, but he's returning to Ireland with his wife and child, and he starts assisting in the care of his mother, who's suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's, and amidst this affliction she starts speaking Gaelic aloud, which is the language of his youth. So it recalls all of these memories of his past, and kind of reconnecting with his Irish roots, as well as the struggle and difficulty of caring for his mother. The Wardrobe Department by Elaine Garvey. This is a debut novel about an Irish woman who moves to London in the early 2000s and begins working in West End theatres in their wardrobe department, cleaning and caring for the costumes and the clothing there, and avoiding the handsy producers at these theaters. So it's about the struggle of adjusting to London life, but also recalling her youth in Ireland and everything that she's left behind. I Hope You're Happy by Marni Appleton. This is a collection of short stories all about 21st century life, about friendship and family and desire and dating, but these stories kind of shade into horror and to some like creepy places. And this is a debut collection, but this author got a PhD in creative writing at the University of East Anglia, where I also went and first studied when I first came to England. So I'm really looking forward to exploring some of these stories. Deviants by Santanu Bhattacharya. This is a novel which is kind of in two parts. In one part, it's about a gay man in modern day India, and about how his parents accept his homosexuality, but they don't know everything that he gets up to on the dating scene. But it's also a novel about the life of his uncle, who in decades past really struggled with concealing his sexuality and wanting to have a relationship, but kind of having to keep that undercover. So it's exploring these different generations of gay life in India. Goodlord by Ella Frears. This is a novel which is told in a very unique way, that it's kind of in verse, but it's very readable, and it's told through a series of emails and snippets of emails that a woman sends to a letting agent, where she is venting everything about her life, about the struggle to get by in the city and to afford rent, but also relationship struggles, and just kind of letting everything out. And it's just such a kind of humorous premise to have this all of these messages being sent to this kind of like impersonal body of a letting agent. And so it's kind of shouting out against the powers that be. And Sheena Patel says of this book that all the hot women I know have Ella Frears on their bedside tables. May Our Joys Endure by Kev Lambert. This is a novel set in Montreal and follows a celebrated architect who's just unveiled plans for a new project to create headquarters for a giant tech company, but then her plans encounter difficulties because of anti-gentrification protesters. And so it's about how when money and the powers that be come and take up space in people's communities to change them and drive out the native population, about that struggle, and which seems very topical at this period of time. Yeah, this sounds like an excellent new novel. Model Home by Rivers Solomon. This story takes place in Dallas, in an upscale gated community where an older couple are found dead in their garden. So their three children return home to deal with this terrifying situation, but also revisit their past and the reasons why they left in the first place, when they were kind of the only black family in the neighborhood, and wrestling with their demons from the past. Blackwood's Blue Sky by Eowyn Ivey. And so this takes place in Alaska, and follows a woman named Birdie, who's a single mother, and she meets a man who they form a really strong bond, and she thinks she can start a new relationship and life with this man when he suggests to her that they go live in a very isolated location. But when that occurs, she discovers that he's not everything that she thought he was. So sounds like a really emotional and terrifying story. The Boy from the Sea by Garrett Carr. This is another Irish novel that I meant to mention earlier, and this story begins in 1973 on the coast of Ireland, when a man discovers an abandoned baby on a beach. So he takes his baby home, and it follows over a period of time as trying to adjust his family to integrate this young boy into their lives. It sounds like a really tender story, and the author Louise Kennedy says of this book that it's compassionate, lyrical, and full of devilment. Rio Muerto by Ricardo Silva Romero. This takes place in a town in Colombia where a man is murdered, and so his widow, who is very courageous and foul-mouthed, seeks justice for him by trying to hold to account the local politicians and lawmakers. But then she encounters difficulties herself and comes under threat herself. So it's following her heartrending journey. The Artist by Lucy Steeds. This is a novel which takes place in Provence in the 1920s and follows a girl whose uncle is a very well-renowned artist, but she assists him in his painting and really makes it possible. And it follows as a journalist comes to interview her uncle and about how secrets are uncovered about this. So I traveled to Provence in last year and just thought it was so beautiful and gorgeous, and so I'm hoping that there'll be lots of evocative descriptions of this environment in this novel, as well as being a good story about art and family and family secrets. This Immaculate Body by Emma von Straaten. So this is a proof copy of this debut novel, and this is what the finished copy looks like. And the story follows a woman who's a cleaner, and she's been cleaning the apartment of a man for a long period of time. So she feels like she knows him very intimately because she's so familiar with all of his belongings and possessions and dwelling in his home, and develops very passionate feelings for him, which she decides she finally wants to reveal to him, but then things don't go as planned. So it's about the clash of that. And this author was the inaugural winner of the Women's Prize Discoveries Award. And so sounds like a really promising new talent. And then finally, I have some new nonfiction. So first, there is Love in Exile by Sean Fay, which recounts the author's life and struggles in love, how love has always felt like this impossible ideal, and that our culture really impresses upon us these ideals about love, which can't be realized in reality. And so about the struggle of that, especially as Sean Fay is experienced as a transgender woman. And she writes in a way which is so powerful and direct and really clear-sighted. I read her previous book, The Transgender Issue, which I thought was incredibly insightful and so well-reasoned, and really just a wonderful read. So I'm really looking forward to exploring her explorations on love. The Hidden Globe, and this has the subtitle, How Wealth Hacks the World. So we're very accustomed to there being borders around countries, and so these countries make laws which either assist or inhibit the rights of their citizens. But there, alongside all of these countries and their borders, there is a kind of hidden world of businesses and high-powered corporations that create places, physical places, where they're not subject to the laws of certain countries, and how this is an increasing phenomenon. And so it's exploring this struggle of wealth throughout time, but in our current age. I mean, it really reminds me of Richard Powers' most recent novel, which is partly all about that, of a corporation trying to create this area where they won't be like subject to the larger laws of a country. And it's a really big, pressing issue of our time, and something that we really struggle to control as citizens, as these big powerful corporations try to elude being taken to task for their greedy endeavors. And finally, there's a very fun sounding new biography called Queen James by Gareth Russell, which is all about the life of James Stewart, who became King James the First in the early 1600s. He was well known to be gay. He had many male lovers, and so this says how we know so much about the wives of King Henry VIII, but not so much about the lovers of King James the First. So it traces primarily three lovers in his life who are very important to him throughout his life, but also the many dramatic changes going on in British royalty at this time, and political shifts in the country. And I just think sounds absolutely fascinating. And I've read a nonfiction book by this author before called The Palace, which is all about the history of Hampton Court, which I read before traveling to Hampton Court with my parents, and it really enriched the experience of that. And also, I really enjoyed watching a very fun recent miniseries called Mary and George, which starred Julianne Moore and was all about how Julianne Moore was trying to get her adult son to become the lover of King James, and therefore get influence in the court. So I'm sure this also follows a lot of the scandal of court life and all about that. So I think it will be a lot of fun to read. So those are all the books I want to discuss today. Like I said, I'd love to know if you are keen on reading any of these books now, or if you have read any of them, what would you recommend, and what did you think of them? I would love to hear about that in the comments below. But I'm looking forward to quickly getting through some work today, and then getting into my ideal reading spot and sitting down with some of these books. So I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.